Hello and welcome to the channel. I am Hannah Alexander and I want to have a little talk about the confirmed upcoming Harry Potter TV show reboot. Now, I have said for years, I want to say since probably 2011, that they should remake, and I know that's when the last film came out, that they should remake the Harry Potter films into a TV show. Mostly because there was, did the last one come out in 2011 or was it 2010? Anyway, doesn't matter. Mostly because they missed so much out of the TV show because of the way, missed so much out of the films because of the way films are. You can't fit a whatever the ridiculous amount of pages of Order of the Phoenix is book into a movie. It just doesn't work. So they were always going to miss things out, and so I have said for years that they should remake it into a TV show. And I was, back in the day, in like 2014 on Tumblr, everybody else wanted it too. Like, it was a common thing that people wanted a Game of Thrones style remake of the Harry Potter movies so that we could include all the details from the books, and now suddenly people don't want it. No, I'm not one of those people. I'm very excited about it. Since the announcement of the Percy Jackson TV show, I thought that the likelihood of a Harry Potter TV show was going to rely on the success of the Percy Jackson TV show. I thought they'd see how well that did and then maybe think about it, but they announced that they were going to do it before the show even came out. I was like, sorry, what? Because I always knew that because of how successful TV shows are now, I've always known that they were going to do Harry Potter. It was just a matter of when. Because it's such a huge thing and the money that they can make from it, turning it into a TV show, is astronomical. It was always going to happen. The only thing is that the best part of the Harry Potter books are Harry's internal monologue, and I don't think there's any way that you can translate that onto screen, but hopefully we get a bit more sassy Harry in the TV show because we didn't see a lot of that in the films. The most important thing that I think this TV show needs to take into account is casting. Is so, like, the way that it was cast in the films, I know that they're iconic, but Snape was too old. Snape was supposed to be 32, 33 in the first movie, and Alan Rickman was already in his, what, 50s? Late 40s, 50s when the first film released. And also Lily and James, when you see them in the Mirror of Erised, are supposed to be 21. They were 21 when they died. You don't age when you die. He wasn't going to see them aged. They were supposed to be 21, and those actors were at least in their late 30s. They were definitely, maybe even 40s. As I said in my previous video, the pacing of the Percy Jackson series was an issue for me. I felt like it was squeezed into 8 40-minute episodes. I don't think that will be an issue with Harry Potter because it's being made by HBO, who obviously made Game of Thrones, which had, I think Game of Thrones was basically done a chapter an episode. So if they can do that in Harry Potter, obviously slower chapters will get put into, like, two chapters will be put into an episode, but if they could do something like that with the Harry Potter books, I think that would be so much better, because then we wouldn't miss out a lot of the important details. I know that there's been or at least I've heard that there's been some discussion about changing the castle and changing the font. I personally don't think they should. I think that Warner Brothers either is owned by Universal or has a partnership with Universal, so obviously they have the Harry Potter world in California, in Florida, and I also think they have one in is it in Shanghai? No, Shanghai is Disney. I'm really sorry, I don't know. Is it? No, Tokyo's Disney as well. Somewhere in Asia, I'm sorry. I will look it up. But I know that they've got at least 3 Harry Potter worlds, and they've also got these studios in London where they actually have the castle where all the cinematics were filmed. I don't think that they should change that. I think it would be a real mistake to change the castle. Like, we've got Hogwarts Legacy as well, which the castle is the same. I don't think that they need to change it. And it would save them money. They can use the same castle again. It's not important because the castle is so iconic. I think that they need to keep it, and the font as well, iconic. Keep it. Don't try and shy away from the really well beloved series. Just make it better. Like, own the fact that it's still the same. You're just going to remake it in a better way and include all the important details that were missed. Like, Harry's dad is an animagus. He is a stag. That's the reason that Harry's Patronus is a stag. It's not mentioned once in the films. Like, it's not mentioned in The Prisoner of Azkaban where he finds out, and it's not mentioned thereafter. Why did they do that? Like, that's such an important part of the story, and it was completely missed out. Ludo Bagman and Winky, huge important characters in The Goblet of Fire. Winky because she tells them all about Crouch and what happened with Barty Crouch Jr. Oh, got my breath stuck there. And Ludo because he was trying to help Harry through the whole tournament because he'd bet on Harry to win because he had no money, and that's the reason that Harry gives his Triwizard winnings to Fred and George, because Ludo owed them a load of money and didn't give it to them. Harry's relationship with Cho in the Order of the Phoenix is such an important part of his arc in the Order of the Phoenix, and her confusion with liking him when she did like Cedric, and she still likes Cedric even though he's dead, and she needed to talk to him about it but he didn't want to talk about it, and the confusion that it caused for both of them was such an important part of that book, and it was just completely missed out. Like, it was such an important part of Harry being a teenager, like not just the chosen one, the one who had to defeat the Dark Lord. He was also a teenager growing up and learning who he was, and I felt like that was a really important part that was missed out. Voldemort's origins, like the story of his mother and his dad, and then him at Hogwarts, like all his early years, him at the orphanage. Obviously that was the only one that we saw, but we didn't see Dumbledore meeting the matron. Can't remember her name. I'm usually really good at Harry Potter knowledge, but sometimes it just slips my mind. But all of and the first vision that Dumbledore shows Harry when the ministry official goes to meet his mum, Merope, and his brother and father, because his brother had been torturing his dad. They completely missed that out, and it's so important. And then him after Hogwarts as well, when he goes to meet the Hufflepuff lady. All the names are escaping me right now. I do know these names, they're just not at the top of my head. But the memory that they took from her house elf, like, they were such important parts of Voldemort's story, and they were just all we saw was him at the orphanage and his dinner with Slughorn, and there was so much more to it. The development of Ron and Hermione's relationship, it just, in the films, it just sort of felt like they didn't like each other. Oh, they like each other. Like, it was just that switch in Half-Blood Prince when Ron kisses Lavender and Hermione gets cross. Like, that's all we really saw. Obviously she like helped him with the Quidditch training, but she was his friend, she would have done that anyway. We didn't see anything leading up to that point. Oh, that's not true actually. We did see the argument at the Yule Ball, but it wasn't the way that it was in the book. And I think that we should have seen a lot more about Ron and Hermione's relationship. Also, the Harry and Hermione thing in the final films, because I think the director thought that they should be together instead, I didn't like. Obviously they did spend Christmas alone together, but it was like the way that it was directed, he clearly wanted Harry and Hermione together, and they're not supposed to be together. They don't belong together. They're friends, and they're really good friends. Ginny actually being an interesting character. She was such a brick wall in the films. She gave us nothing, and I don't know if it's Bonnie Wright's fault. I've never seen her in anything else, or if it was just the way that it was directed, but she was just so dull in the films. They had absolutely zero chemistry. Like, oh, the shoelace, it makes me want to gag. The shoelace scene in The Half-Blood Prince, where she's like, shoelace, does a shoelace up for him, and I could stay hidden up here too, you know. No, awful. I mean, the whole Ginny and Harry thing is obviously very quick in the books. It's like he sees her as Ron's sister, and then in The Half-Blood Prince he fancies her. That always rubbed me up the wrong way, but at least she was interesting in the books. Even if Harry didn't see her that way. She was still a really interesting character, and she was strong, and she was a Quidditch player, and she was a good Quidditch player, and she didn't like being Seeker, but she was a good Seeker, but preferred playing Chaser. She was such an interesting character, and they completely destroyed her in the films, and she just had nothing, gave nothing. And as I said, I don't know if it was Bonnie Wright, because they cast her at 11 and she only had one line in the first film, and it was good luck, and that was it. So it could have gone any way with her, but I think direction was a lot of it. And in the flipping Order of the Phoenix, where Hermione's like, Cho couldn't take her eyes off you, could she? And then it just cuts to Ginny just Gormo, and I'm like, just do something, give us something. But I don't know. Hopefully when they make the TV show, the actress they cast as Ginny is actually interesting. I do wish that they would divert from the source material a little bit in the epilogue and not have Harry name his second son Albus Severus, because that has always made me seethe with anger, because Snape didn't deserve a redemption arc. He was an awful human being just because he kept Harry alive a couple of times because he was obsessed with his mum. It's not romantic, it's creepy. He was awful. I hate that man. He is an awful character. So that does me. I wish they would divert from the plot for that bit, but obviously they won't. Harry should have named his second son Arthur Rubius, and I will die on this hill. Also, Harry wouldn't have become an Auror. There is just no way. He had done what he wanted to do. The only reason he wanted to become an Auror was because he thought it was the path that made most sense for him, because he had to go and defeat Voldemort. He defeated Voldemort before he finished school. He didn't even do his last year of school because he went off to flip and defeat Voldemort. No, he would have become a professional Quidditch player and then become Defense Against Dark Arts teacher. And you can't disagree with me, because I won't hear it. That is what he would have done. But this is not a video about what I disagree with the author about, because that video would be a lot longer. At the end of the day, I think the show is a really, really good idea. It needs a refresh. For one thing, the graphics in the first movie with the Quidditch are so terrible. Also, we need to see more Quidditch. We didn't see any of the Quidditch World Cup. I'm going back to what they missed. We didn't see any of the Quidditch World Cup in the Goblet of Fire. That's a whole chapter in itself. That could be a whole episode. It's just the Quidditch World Cup, and it would be exciting. It would be good. But they completely missed it out of the films. Like all the Quidditch was basically cut out from the after the second film. Like, we saw a little bit of it in the, oh my god, Prisoner of Azkaban, but then he gets like sucked up by the Dementors. But that's the year that Wood wins the Quidditch House Cup. That's Wood's last year, and he has to win it, and they win it, and all we see is that match with the Dementors. And they completely miss it. Like, all of the Quidditch is just completely missed out. And I know that some people aren't all that interested in the Quidditch. I am, and I feel like a lot of people are. They need more Quidditch in the TV show. Anyway, it's a good idea, and it will be really good if they get it right. And that's all there is, really. It needs to be true to the books, because as much as there are plot holes in the books, and there are, I could do a whole video in itself just talking about the book's plot holes, but at the end of the day, they're really loved. I love them. I think they're really great books. And if they do the show, like if the show does the books justice, it'll be excellent. And that's all I want, really. Good casting, keep all the details in, and make the characters better, i.e. Ginny. Let me know what you think about them making Harry Potter into a TV show. Do you wish they wouldn't? Do you wish they'd do the Marauders instead? I know that's a really popular opinion, and I would really like to see the Marauders too. But I think if this is popular, they can go on to increase the universe like they did with the Fantastic Beasts, just hopefully not ruin it like they did with Fantastic Beasts. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to see more content like this, and I will see you next time.